So you think you know Columbia? Not even close. I mean, maybe you've walked the Lake Murray Dam, been to the Soda City Market, saw some nice southern homes for an affordable price online, and then got a few recommendations from the Facebook group and thought, yeah, I could live here. But living here, that's a whole different playbook. I mean, one street feels like a laid-back historic district. The next, rural living. We're talking dirt roads, Walmart pickup truck meetups, and Dollar Generals. Then, full-on suburbia, community pools, quiet cul-de-sacs, neighborhoods you didn't even know existed, but somehow felt like they were built for you. And yeah, a few curveballs that'll punch your wallet if you're not ready for them. People come here thinking they already know the story. It's just like mini California, Phoenix, or Austin, but cheaper, right? Not even close. Spend a week in here and watch that storyline completely unravel. Look, the city's a vibe, but it's also a puzzle, and most people only piece together a corner. That's where I come in. I moved here 10 years ago with my wife. Total leap of faith after driving around for a week. I dove in, learned the ins and outs, built a business here. It's where my kids were born and are being raised. And now talk to people every single day, trying to do the exact same thing. In this video, it's everything you actually need to know about Columbia in 2025 and beyond. No fluff, no top 10 neighborhoods, just the real stuff. Culture, neighborhoods, cost, curveballs, and why so many people come for the weather and lower housing costs, but stay for the lifestyle. So lean in. This isn't just a city tour. It's your blueprint for building a whole new life in Columbia, South Carolina. Since before the pandemic, I've been walking the city with clients, asking the real question, does Columbia actually feel like home to you? And here's what I've learned. What makes or breaks your move isn't just the price tag on a house or how close you are to Lake Murray. It's the feel, the pace, the pocket of city that actually fits you. So I'm gonna give you the real deal, boots on the ground insight. From neighborhoods that'll have you saying, why didn't anyone tell me about this? All the way to the curveballs that never show up on the other videos, but hit hard once you're already here. And it starts with this. Before you worry about the housing market, commute times, or those car taxes, you gotta understand the energy of Columbia, the rhythm, the lifestyle, and why the people who move here and stay say, yeah, there's a lot of quirks here, but I wasn't expecting it. It feels like home. Let's talk culture and lifestyle, because if you're thinking Columbia, Lexington, or even Lake Murray are all the same, they're not. Columbia, for one, Columbia has that unexpected blend. Part college town, part capital city, part military. You've got pockets where the vibe is creative, walkable, even a little gritty in a good way, like the Divine Street corridor, Main Street during Soda City, or little spots tucked into neighborhoods like Rosewood and Melrose. You'll find vintage shops next to yoga studios, Saturday farmers markets, and food trucks right outside State House events. There's diversity in culture, food, and people, and that energy, it's what keeps it from feeling like a cookie cutter southern city or just a copy of the next big city over. Because Columbia has its pace. It's more laid back than Charlotte or Atlanta. People linger, talk slower, and know your name by the second visit. Lexington, totally different rhythm. It's more family-centric, newer, polished. I mean, you'll see golf carts in neighborhoods, kids riding bikes to community pools, church barbecues, and youth sports fields packed every Saturday. It feels a little more structured, a little more together, with newer construction, HOA rules, and a real emphasis on schools and suburb life. But here's the thing, it's also growing fast, and with that comes a bit more traffic. Chain restaurants starting to outnumber mom and pops, and that sprawl that can feel a little disconnected if you're used to a tight-knit, walkable area. Now, Columbia is the vibe, and Lexington is the structure. Northeast Columbia is where practicality meets flexibility. It's huge, spread out area. Think big neighborhoods, big square footage, and a big mix of people. You got master plan communities like Lake Carolina with trails, lakes, and events. And you've got newer builds tucked behind old country roads where you feel like you're miles from the city, because you kind of are. This area pulls in a lot of military families from Fort Jackson, remote workers who want more space, and buyers looking for more house for the money. The culture is family-oriented, diverse, and surprisingly self-contained. You got tons of schools, parks, gyms, groceries, and chain restaurants, all within a few miles. It's almost the new suburban feeling of the bunch. You're not getting walkability here. What you're getting is ability to skip downtown altogether, grab dinner over at Top Dog Tavern, or breakfast at Lizard Thicket, and still be 5 minutes from your kid's school or the soccer field. That said, it's not for everyone. Traffic along Two Notch and Clemson can get heavy, and thank goodness the hardscrabble widening is closer to being done than not. Now, the area lacks a central hangout spot or nightlife hub like Divine Street or Main Street Lexington. And because it's grown so fast, not every part has that same polish that most people expect. So if your checklist includes school, space, and newer homes without jumping in price, Northeast Columbia might be your lane. Just don't expect a strong downtown feel outside going to actual downtown Columbia. This is more about comfort, convenience, and creating your own lifestyle inside the neighborhoods. Now, Lake Murray, that's a lifestyle. It's less about convenience and more about peace. Morning on the docks, pontoon boats at sunset, small lakefront restaurants where the staff knows your order. You trade easy access to shopping and nightlife for views, quiet, and the kind of living that feels like a perpetual vacation, assuming you're okay driving 15 to 30 minutes for most errands. So if you're deciding where to land, ask yourself, do you want the energy of a college town, the structure of the suburbs, or the stillness of lake life? Columbia's metro isn't one size fits all. It's a triangle of lifestyles, and your fit depends on your rhythm. This is why there's no simple answer when people call and ask, where should I live? There's a lot more that goes into it than I need a 4-bedroom, 2-bath under $350 in a nice area. But we'll dive more into the neighborhoods later, hopefully help you narrow it down a bit more. So stick around for that, because just when you think you kind of got Columbia figured out, the lifestyle, the pace, the people, that's when it hits you. The city doesn't just live, it celebrates. Stick around, because the real Columbia, you feel it at street festivals, night markets, lakeside fireworks, and yes, the random Thursday you stumbled into live music outside a taco truck. Let's get into that. But real quick, if you're liking this kind of real talk, consider hitting that subscribe button. I try to keep things honest and down to earth. I mean, later on, we're gonna be hitting those true pros and cons that no one really wants to warn you about, fearing that you might move on to the next southern town that doesn't have state income taxes. That's right, no sugarcoating, no hype, just what buyers are actually asking me about every day. And don't hesitate to reach out if you are considering a move. But let's continue on. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Columbia doesn't hit you all at once. It sneaks up on you at a random street festival, a farmer's market, or your kid's school chili cook-off. This city lives for its local events. And they're not just background noise, they're how you plug into the community. You've got your big ticket annual stuff, right? St. Patty's and 5 Points, where college kids and locals collide for one of the Southeast's wildest St. Patrick's Day parties. No joke, you'll see the grandparents who have been going to these festivals for years, next to their college-age grandkids who will be up till after midnight walking outdoor bars, all next to some lady walking her golden doodle while pushing a stroller with her baby. It's not just for the young or the old. It's got that energy for everybody. Soda City Market, every Saturday morning, rain or shine throughout the year on Main Street, where you can go down to Main Street, walk past fresh produce, handmade soap, empanadas, a guy slicing up fresh coconuts, and someone playing acoustic guitar next to a guy selling leather belts. And don't sleep on the Riverbank Zoo, lights before Christmas, which somehow makes 40-degree nights feel magical. But then there are the hyper-local, neighborhood-centric gems. Forest Acres has movie nights and pop-up concerts. Lexington hosts weekend festivals at the Ice House Amphitheater, where you'll see strollers, lawn chairs, and food trucks all packed together. Lake Murray brings boat parades and fireworks, and not just on the 4th of July. I mean, they even have concerts on the water now. And here's what matters most. These aren't just events. They're connection points. Whether you're walking 5 Points with a cold beer, cheering on the Gamecocks downtown, or watching your neighbor perform at a local art night, this is where Columbia reveals its heartbeat. And after the music fades, the fireworks die down, and the farmer market's bags are packed, there's one thing Columbia doesn't play about: food. But here's the twist. It's not always where you expect, and what people think we're known for, not always what locals actually crave. I mean, if you've seen my interview series, barbecue food or Southern comfort food isn't the standard answer anymore. So let's talk about the food scene that fuels this city before we dive further into those specific neighborhoods that you all ask me about. Columbia's food scene isn't trying to be trendy. It's trying to feed you well. Keep it local and stay true to its roots. I mean, you're not gonna see 5-star steakhouses on every corner, Michelin-rated restaurants, or high-rise rooftops with fusion tapas. What you'll find are family-owned joints, decade-old diners, and unexpected gems tucked into shopping plazas that locals swear by. Downtown Columbia brings more variety. Think Il Giorgione for upscale Italian, Motor Supply Company for farm-to-table vibes, or the Warmouth for smoked meats and southern staples with a twist. But you gotta know when to go. I mean, weekends can get busy, and you're starting to need reservations at some of these places, especially on game days or during events. Now, Lexington has its own flavor, more casual, more comfort. Dee's Wings, local favorite. O'Hara's, It's a local hangout downtown spot, consistent and sometimes a band in the corner. But if you're looking for late night eats or chef-driven spots, you might feel like you're always heading back toward downtown. But with Ember now open downtown Lexington, that vibe seems to be starting to shift. Lake Murray, less about sit-down dining and more about the lake life lifestyle. Think waterfront bars, sunset views, and seafood spots where flip-flops are totally acceptable. Northeast Columbia, it's a little more suburban strip style. You'll find chains and fast casuals, but there's a few standouts like Trevinia's and small international spots that surprise people. And across the board, no matter where you land, there's a strong sense of community through food. It's not just about what's on the plate, but who's serving it. Places where the servers know your name, or you bump into your neighbor at the counter checkout, and specials that are hand-picked by the staff. Think Susan's Favorite or Johnny's Special, which aren't just made-up names, but people that actually work here. So no, Columbia isn't trying to be Charleston, Atlanta. They got their own vibe, and I know that's why people go to visit those areas when they're looking for something different. But if you know where to go, the food here doesn't just satisfy, it connects you to the city. Now, once you've had your fill, literally, you might start asking, okay, but where do people actually live around here? Because Columbia isn't just one blob on the map. It's a patchwork. Historic districts, brand new builds, quiet cul-de-sacs, and quirky pockets you'd miss if you weren't looking for them. And the real question isn't, what's the best neighborhood? We get asked this all the time. It's truly, what's the best fit for you? Because whether you're craving community pools, shady streets, or something that feels undiscovered, Columbia's got it. Let's break it down, from the obvious spots to the ones even some locals are overlooking. Columbia's layout is anything but cookie cutter. This city isn't just Columbia. It's a collection of micro-communities, each with its own vibe, pace, and price point. There's not one central hub everyone flocks to. They kind of find the one that fits their vibe. It's honestly one of the hardest things to explain. This city isn't built like most. People often ask if the north side of the lake or the south side is better. Should I pick Elgin or Blythewood? It's really not that simple. So let's break it down. Downtown and historic districts. Start with areas like Shandon, Rosewood, and Forest Acres. These places ooze character. I mean, think bungalows with front porches, mature trees, and streets that actually tell a story. If you want walkability and charm over square footage and parking space, this is your spot. But just know, older homes can mean tighter closets, less open concept, and a little more maintenance. That's a trade-off for that it feels like a movie set energy. As well, being older and established, this comes with a price tag. It's not cheap if you want it updated. Lake Murray area. Now, swing out west toward Lake Murray, where life slows down and water views are the backdrop. Places like Chapin, Timberlake, Prosperity, they offer that lakeside lifestyle. Boating, fishing, sunsets on the dock. But keep in mind, while you get serenity, you're also gonna add a little bit more drive time, especially if you're having to commute back to Columbia for work. Lexington suburbs. Lexington, where a lot of people start looking. It's one of the biggest areas that people talk about online. It's got top-ranked schools, newer homes, community pools, proximity to Lake Murray, and a growing list of restaurants, retail, and local events year-round. Feels a little more master planned, which can be exactly what some buyers want. I mean, we're talking modern layouts, wide streets, HOAs that keep everything clean. But for others, feels a bit too uniform. And traffic here can sneak up on you during rush hour or when school drop-off and pickup lines create parking lots of traffic. Some even prefer to head more rural areas of Lexington, Red Bank and Gilbert, where your money goes further and you can find plenty of new options for far less than the other side of Lexington. Still others find it a little bit too rural, with no uniformity. Homes next to buy here, pay here lots, car shops, farms next to master plan subdivisions, and a lack of upscale restaurants and Dollar Generals instead of boutique stores. Northeast Columbia. This area is huge, covering neighborhoods like Blythewood, Lake Carolina, the Summit. It's one of the most diverse sections in terms of home styles and price points. You'll find everything from established communities with big yards to brand new neighborhoods with builder incentives. It tends to be really popular with military families thanks to the proximity to Fort Jackson and people looking for value per square foot. Keep in mind, it's diverse too. Some of the most budget-friendly homes in our area, right up the street from some of the most expensive homes off the lake in our entire area. There's something for everyone. So don't be surprised when the 2,500 square foot home is $250,000 in one neighborhood and $500,000 in the next neighborhood. They aren't priced wrong, it's just different block to block. walk. And like Lexington, it can feel more spread out, not as quaint as some envision, especially if you're used to walkability. I've literally left a showing with a client, drove 30 minutes, and when we arrived, they said, "Where are we now?" Still Northeast Columbia. Irmo. Just northwest of Columbia, Irmo blends suburban comfort with older character. It's known for its strong sense of community, good schools, and family-friendly parks. If you want the convenience of being close to the city, but appreciate tree-lined streets and slower pace, Irmo fits the bill. Homes here vary. You got many older homes from the 50s, 60s, 70s, as well as some slipped in newer developments from the 90s up to today. So there's a mix of options. Plus, Irmo's proximity to Lake Murray means easy access to boating and water activities without the premium lakefront price. But don't get it twisted. There's no downtown. It's more commercialized, kind of like Northeast Columbia, with a local mall and chain stores. Yes, they still host tons of community events at Moore Park, but the park is kind of standalone. You have to get in your car and drive if you plan to head out after. The hidden pockets. Then there are the ones people only discover after they moved here. West Columbia is affordable, up-and-coming area with growing art scene and local eateries. It's ideal if you want to be near downtown without the typical suburb feel. Just keep in mind, being up-and-coming, many people point out the vast differences between the pockets that have been revitalized and those that haven't been. And if you're looking for budget-friendly, it's probably going to be in the area that isn't revitalized. Elgin gives you a rural small town vibe with open spaces and a slower pace. Great for those wanting country living with still a manageable commute. You're not going to have tons of shopping or amenities nearby. While bordering Northeast Columbia, the density here is less than half of the neighboring zip codes. To put into perspective, Hopkins and Garner's Ferry. A growing area offering affordable homes, easy highway access. New developments are bringing more convenience without losing that quiet, welcoming community feel. It's perfect for buyers wanting space and being close to Columbia. Keep in mind, being a still growing area, the shopping district is truly back into Columbia, giving some more of that urban setting, with some being put off by that, with hopes for its own town square or being isolated from the city. Each offers unique benefits beyond the usual Columbia suburbs, worth exploring if you want to try something different. Columbia isn't just about finding the right house, it's about finding your place. So whether that's on the lake, tucked under Oaks and Shandon, or in a new build community near Sand Hills, there's a fit for almost every lifestyle here. The key is knowing where to look and seeing past the zip code to the energy of the neighborhood that suits you best. It's not something a video, a guide, or even a home tour can always answer. You kind of gotta slow down and get a feel for the neighborhood and local area before you try and fall in love with a house. We see too many people jump on the perfect home online only to regret the area and neighborhood. It's why we created our self-guided tours, because time and time again I tell clients, you need to fall in love with an area before you fall in love with a Zillow home alert. So now that you got a better feel for the neighborhoods and hidden pockets around Columbia, let's shift gears, because one of the best parts of living here, it's not behind those four walls, it's outside. Then we'll circle back to the cost of living and wrap up with some pros and cons and the things that catch people by surprise. You want to stick around so I don't get the call after closing saying, "No one ever told me." Columbia might not always top the national list when it comes to outdoor living, but that's exactly why it surprises so many people who move here. Many of these are hidden just far enough off the beaten path or tucked away that some people, even years after living here, miss many of the things we have to offer. Look, it's not Disney World or Universal being built in our backyard, but for outdoor enthusiasts, it's epic. Whether you're big on fitness, have kids that need to burn some energy like me, or just want somewhere peaceful to decompress after work, Columbia quietly delivers. I mean, you got the river walks, one in West Columbia and one in Casey, where you can walk or bike right along the Congaree River. Locals love these for morning runs, weekend strolls, or even date nights with coffee in hand and skyline views. You can even catch a guided tubing adventure down the river. Then there's the Sesquicentennial State Park, or Sesqui as locals call it, tucked right inside Northeast Columbia. Over 1,400 acres of trails for walking or biking, a lake for kayaking and paddleboarding, a splash pad, and some surprisingly secluded spots for a picnic. It's one of those places that feels like a mini mountain retreat that is literally tucked between shopping centers on a busy road. Over near Hopkins and the Garner's Ferry area, you'll find the Congaree National Park, South Carolina's only national park, and a completely different outdoor vibe. Think elevated boardwalks through massive old-growth forests, kayaking through still black water, and the firefly shows that bring people in from across the country. Now, if you're close to Lexington or Lake Murray, outdoor life starts to feel more like resort living. from Dreher Island State Park to the public access points for boating, fishing, and just relaxing by the water. It's a kind of setup that turns weekends into mini staycations. And I know most people always find their way to the 1.7-mile dam walkway whenever they visit, as the sunsets are unreal and have you falling in love with Lake Murray the minute you see it. Columbia also does community parks really well. Places like Saluda Shoals, Olin Fields Park over in Rosewood, and yes, there's even a skate park there for the kids or adults, and small tucked away playgrounds throughout Shandon, Forest Acres, and even the Lexington, Chapin, and Irmo area. Believe it or not, there's probably not one far from your doorstep. Now, soaking up the outdoors here might feel like you're living large, but does the cost of living actually match that laid-back lifestyle? Let's break it down, because what you think your money can buy in Columbia might actually surprise you. Compared to big cities or even other parts of the Carolinas, Columbia still holds on to that affordable reputation. We hear it so often. We love Charleston, but it's too expensive. We like Greenville, but our money didn't go very far. So here we are, but here's the deal. Affordability doesn't always mean cheap. Yes, our median home price floats around that $290,000 mark, which is well below the national average. But what that gets you varies big time by area. Look at places like Lexington or Northeast Columbia, your dollar does stretch a little bit further. I mean, you can get brand new construction homes with incentives, community pools, modern layouts. Now, of course, if you're looking for something with a little more square footage or maybe a little more land, expect that price to be decently higher. These areas tend to attract buyers who want space, HOA structure, and that suburban checklist. But head into the older in-town neighborhoods like Shandon, Forest Acres, or Rosewood, and things change. You're paying more for charm, walkability, and location, and often getting less square footage, older construction, and smaller closets. A $400,000 budget here might get you a 3-bed, 2-bath bungalow with character, but not always the open concept people expect. But hey, if you got a sizable budget, you have homes that make you feel like you're living in the Hollywood Hills. Now, while we don't personally have a rental division, on the rental side, monthly rents have crept up too. You can still find apartments under $1,200 to $1,400 a month in some parts of town, but new builds closer to downtown, the Vista, Lake Murray, or the Bull Street district easily climb $1,800 plus. And home rentals can be hit or miss too, but most will lock you into 12-month term. So it's not always easy to rent a house while taking a few months to figure it out. It's also worth noting the cost of living here has crept up post-pandemic. Property taxes are still relatively low, as they cap our reassessment when they do reassess. Now granted, it will reassess when you buy that home, but on the same accord, car taxes can be high. Car insurance, higher than some states. And utilities can sneak up on folks who are used to cheap bills. You'll be running that AC a lot more than you did up north. And if you're trying to keep that grass green, that water and sewer bill might surprise you that first year. And then there's the curveball. There's still a handful of areas with required flood insurance. Well, again, it's not common. If you see a house over in Irmo or downtown Columbia that the price just seems unbeatable, it may be because it requires flood insurance. But we'll talk more about that later. But here's the good news. There's no one-size-fits-all budget here. Columbia is full of micro markets, and if you're flexible on an area or features, there's usually a way to get what matters most to you, whether that's space, location, or lifestyle. You just have to trade off some certain things depending on what's most important for you. Now that you've got a sense of what your money can actually buy here, let's talk about how people make that money. Because whether you're relocating for work, starting fresh, or bringing your remote job with you, Columbia's economy might not be what you expect. Columbia is not just a government town or a college city, though both do play a big role. What's quietly been happening over the last few years is a diversification of the job market that's attracting everyone from remote tech workers to healthcare professionals, military families, and even creative freelancers. Post-pandemic, it seems companies are shifting their move to where taxes are cheaper, land is less expensive, and people are actually moving to. And South Carolina has checked those boxes. Each week, I hear of new companies or industries that chose South Carolina to make their mark, both nationally and internationally now. Let's start with the big employers. So the state government and the University of South Carolina remain two of the top employers in the region. So if you're in education, administration, or public policy, this place is solid ground. Add in Fort Jackson, one of the largest Army training bases in the country, and you've got a steady stream of military and civilian defense related jobs too. So don't be surprised when summer comes and there's a handful of houses that come up for sale when they only bought 2 years ago. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the neighborhood. That's just the life they live. But where it gets interesting is outside that, especially in healthcare and logistics. Major players like Prisma Healthcare, Lexington Medical Center, MUSC, and the VA medical centers create thousands of jobs in and around the Columbia Metro, from nursing to admin and everything in between. And with Columbia's location along major highways, I-20, I-26, and I-77, distribution hubs and supply chain roles have expanded fast. Manufacturing has exploded locally, and new companies are pouring in around Blythewood, East Lexington, and more. I know Scout Motors always gets the biggest attention as one of the biggest coming to the area, but there are so many more that I hear about on a regular basis. Then there's remote work. Columbia has seen a sharp rise in relocation from people who don't need to go into an office at all. They're choosing the area for cost of living, lifestyle, and space. While their income may come from companies based in Atlanta, Charlotte, or even California, they're done with the hustle and bustle, fast-paced cities, and now call here home. And if you're entrepreneurial, there's room here. Co-working spaces like SoCo or GrowCo downtown. Then you have the USC Columbia Innovation, geared towards technology companies. You have business startup incubators, the Bull Street District with Capgemini, the Scout headquarters, and a local push toward tech and innovation have seemed to give the city some momentum. It's still early, but Columbia is not being left behind. Unemployment remains lower than the national average. And while wages might lag behind bigger metros, the cost-benefit trade-offs still work in favor of many people moving here. Where I've literally helped many in their early 20s buy a home here, where back home, they said they were struggling to even find a decent place to rent, even with a good paying job. So whether you're looking for stable employment, a better work-life balance, or room to launch your next idea, Columbia's economy has more options than ever, and it's still growing. Now, whether you're clocking in downtown, working remotely, or just trying to get from home to Target without a headache, the real question is, what's it like getting around Columbia? Because for everything this area has to offer, there's one reality that still catches people off guard. Let's be upfront. Columbia is still very much a car-first city. If you were picturing a walkable public transit hubs or a light rail system like some bigger metros, you won't find that here. The closer you are to downtown, the more options you have. But once you're in the suburbs like Lexington, Blythewood, or even parts of Northeast Columbia, you're gonna need a car. Yeah, inside the city, the Comet bus system does exist and covers key areas around USC, downtown, and a few commuter routes into Northeast Columbia, but it's limited, so don't try and bank on it. Most locals only use it if they absolutely have to, and it's not something that serves the suburbs in a reliable or robust way. Now on the flip side, driving here isn't as painful as it is in many major metros. You're not sitting in standstill traffic for an hour to go 5 miles. Most commutes inside Columbia clock in under 25 minutes, and even from Lexington or Irmo into downtown, you're often looking at 20-30 minutes during rush hour. Look, I'm not saying traffic doesn't exist, but trust me when I say those coming from big hubs will laugh at what people call traffic here. Highway access is a big plus. I-20, I-26, and I-77 all converge in Columbia, which makes zipping across the region pretty doable. But here's what people don't expect. Local traffic in smaller town Lexington, Irmo, and others can feel more congested than you think, especially during those school drop-off or weekend errands. That tends to cause more headaches than Malfunction Junction does. I think just because people expect rush hour traffic on the interstate, but don't expect to sit through 3 lights just to get home from the grocery store. And it's a reminder that even a small city or town can feel stretched if the roads don't keep up with growth. And if you're a frequent flyer, Columbia Metro Airport is small, but efficient. You won't get long TSA lines or parking headaches, but the flight options are limited. For bigger routes or direct national travel, many locals still drive to Charlotte Douglas International, about 1.5 hours away. And especially if you're over in the northeast part of Columbia, Charlotte is a breeze to get to. Our personal favorite is Charleston. It's on the north side of Charleston before you get in the thick of their traffic, so far less traffic than Charlotte and about the same distance if you live on the Lexington side of town. Which brings up another point that so many overlook when it comes to commuting. So many times when people visit the area, they underestimate the size of the area. For instance, from the west side of Lake Murray to Elgin or Blythewood is over an hour drive. From Timberlake on the Lake in Chapin to Pintail on the Lake in Gilbert, while it may seem like a short boat ride, is over a 45-minute drive. This is not some hop, skip, and a jump town where we can tour 3 homes in Chapin, followed by 2 in Lexington, and wrap up with 4 in Blythewood. We would spend more time in cars than we would in houses. And if you're still stuck between Greenville and Columbia, I would make sure to spend a few days at each, as Greenville and Spartanburg are about 45 minutes apart and are both 2 hours away from us. Add in once you leave Chapin, all you'll see is gas station and trees until you hit Greenville. Bottom line, if you're coming from a place where you haven't owned a car in years, you'll probably want to get one here. But if you're used to suburb life or small city traffic, you'll likely find Columbia's pace pretty manageable. If you are coming from a big city, it will feel like a breath of fresh air. Just don't expect Uber or transit to be your daily driver if you prefer the suburbs. And hey, whether you're commuting daily or just running errands on the weekend, there's one thing that'll shape your experience more than any road or route: the weather. It's the part of life here that people either embrace fully or completely underestimate and head back home. Let's talk climate, because South Carolina doesn't shy away from seasons. Summers, hot, humid, and long. We're talking 90+ days that some years show up in May and sometimes stretch all the way to September. If you're coming from a dry climate or the north, it might take some getting used to. I mean, I recently had a client from the Northwest. One day in the humidity and they said this place was not for them. Got right back on the plane and back to the drawing board. The upside: mild winters. Snow is rare. Ice is rarer. And you'll often see people wearing shorts on Christmas and New Year's, especially this guy. Spring and fall are the sweet spots, with warm days, cooler nights, with the windows open, and that southern charm in full bloom. Literally, just don't underestimate pollen season. Everything turns yellow. Now, on to something most YouTube videos skip: flood zones. Look, we're not the coast, but yeah, Columbia still has them in some areas. Some where you're not always expecting. I mean, certain pockets, especially around creeks. You're talking Irmo, Gills Creek, Rosewood, parts of Forest Acres, and older neighborhoods near downtown. They have seen heavy flooding during heavy storms or hurricanes in the past. The historic 2015 flood were a wake-up call for those in floodplains. It's not just something you have to pay for, it's something you have to think about. And while infrastructure has improved and floodplains got readjusted, keep in mind they still exist. So if you're buying, make sure you're working with someone who understands FEMA maps and not just rating scales on real estate websites, and what that means for insurance costs and long-term risk. Pro tip: many of the flood zone areas aren't total deal breakers. Don't cross out an entire neighborhood because of a creek I mentioned. They just require a closer look at drainage, updated construction, or even just a better understanding of which part of the street you're on. I mean, you could literally be in a hot neighborhood and just a few houses over makes all the difference. Bottom line, the weather shapes the lifestyle, and flood zones are a real part of living smart here, depending on where you're looking. But with the right guidance, it's nothing you can't navigate around. Now, if you made it this far, you're probably already picturing the kind of life you want to build here. Maybe for yourself, maybe for your family. But there's one topic that almost every client brings up on every phone call, whether it's pertinent to them or not. And it's usually whispered like it's taboo, with every agent fearing losing their license if they dare speak about it. What about the schools? Here's the deal. Columbia doesn't just have one school district. It has several, and sometimes the zoning lines can be confusing, and they vary a lot depending on where you are. In fact, where you choose to live could mean the difference between Lexington 1, Lexington 2, Lexington 3, Lexington Richland 5, Richland 1, or Richland 2. And that's before you even look into charter or magnet options, or maybe even the rural parts of towns. And while yes, we have school choice, it's only within district. So no, you can't live in Irmo and go to Lexington High School. As well, it's based on availability. And I promise you, those top schools aren't always available. Overcrowding happens every few years with the growth. And then the district forms new plans of rezoning or try and build a new school. But let's break it down by region. Lexington 1, which includes parts of Lexington and Lake Murray. It's known for strong community support, newer facilities, and some of the highest demand for buyers. Families moving in often cite this district as their #1 choice for the area. Lexington Richland 5, over in Chapin, Irmo, and Ballantyne. A well-rounded district with a solid reputation and access to some newer schools, especially in the Lake Murray corridor. Overcrowding has plagued them over the years, but they keep making adjustments, so don't be surprised if over the years you see some rezoning or some shifting around. Richland 2, over in Northeast Columbia. One of the largest districts in the area, includes a mix of newer campuses, magnet programs, and growing neighborhoods. It's diverse and rapidly expanding. While online sites vary the ranks, high schools like Blythewood are often thrown out regularly by buyers. Richland 1, downtown Columbia, Rosewood, Forest Acres. More urban, more established, with a range of outcomes depending on the school. Families here often vary between private or public, depending on what they hear and read. And proximity to USC actually brings in some unique learning opportunities. Lexington 2 and 3, over in West Columbia, South Congaree, and the surrounding areas. These are smaller districts with more rural feel in some areas, a mix of tight-knit schools and longer commute times. For instance, the brand new South Lake Elementary School in Lexington 1 just opened in South Lexington, and there are homes that are literally a mile down South Lake, minutes from the school, but they will find themselves hiking back 6 miles to Congaree Elementary and almost 10 miles to Airport High School. Proximity and zoning don't always go hand in hand, so check twice, as many real estate sites fill in the schools by proximity, not actual zoning. Here's the truth. It's not just about test scores and website grading. It's about fit, class size, campus culture, extracurriculars, commute, and what's actually happening inside those classrooms. I've had one parent choose one school because of sports, and the next choose another because of higher education opportunities. And unfortunately, a quick Google search or a great school's rating doesn't always tell the full story. Visit the school, talk to the teachers, talk to the parents, and don't always trust your agent when it comes to this. Some will be glad to tell you which one is best, but at the end of the day, my kids go to one school and have had a good experience, so my only perspective comes from what I read and hear. My goal isn't just to sell you a home, but find you the right fit for your family. And just because I like it doesn't guarantee that you will, or even you'll get the same teacher my kid had. So do your homework, even when someone on Facebook told you which school they think is best. What most people wish they knew. Some of the most in-demand neighborhoods aren't zoned for the schools you'd expect. You'd be surprised when some of the most sought-after neighborhoods are big into private schools. With that said, private and charter schools are available, and many have made that move in that direction. Even the district with high ratings, but some have long wait lists or unique admission process, so be prepared for that and don't bank on it. And the best school district for one family might not be the right fit for another. Now, if you spent even 5 minutes in a Facebook group or a Reddit thread asking about Columbia, you've probably walked away more confused than when you started. Everyone's got an opinion, and they're not shy about sharing it. But how much of it is actually true? Let's clear the air. Let's be honest, moving is already hard enough without dodging digital landmines. But in Columbia, as with most cities, what you'll find online is often a loud mix of outdated info, generalizations, and straight up bad advice. One person says it's the best town ever. The next says it sucks here and you will regret it. What? Here are a few of the most common myths we hear and what's actually true. Myth 1, don't move to Columbia. It's a dangerous city. Yes, crime exists here. I'm not naive. Like in every city though, homelessness has picked up across the country and we're not free from that. But lumping all of Columbia into one big unsafe label is kind of misleading in my opinion. There are dozens of distinct neighborhoods, each with their own vibe, safety stats, and community feel. I mean, how many people did you hear in my interview series that absolutely love our downtown? And some that even live there, where others say it's sketchy and avoid it at all costs. Sure, I imagine there's some bad spots. I mean, just go watch Live PD. But again, that doesn't mean the entire city is bad. The truth, there are pockets that feel urban, pockets that feel suburban, and pockets that feel rural, all within 15 minutes of each other. It's not about the city, it's about which part fits you. Myth 2, you have to live in Lexington if you have kids. Look, Lexington gets a lot of love, and rightfully so, but it's not the only place with good schools, family-friendly neighborhoods, or a strong sense of community. The truth, families are just as happy in Irmo, Forest Acres, Lake Carolina, or even parts of downtown Columbia. It all depends on what you're looking for. Want a big backyard and a quiet cul-de-sac? Sure, Lexington might be your match. Prefer walkability, including to community parks and charm? You've got other options. So many people loop each area into where you should move if. But time and time again, locals say no matter where they live, it's a mix of families, retirees, and even young professionals. Myth 3, locals don't want outsiders here. You'll see this comment pop up in Facebook groups, usually in a heated thread about traffic or new development. But when you meet people in real life, it's a different story. The truth, most people who live here came from somewhere else, whether it was by themselves or through their parents. I mean, even the haters, I've seen comments. I moved here 13 years ago and it was great then, but it's changed and I'm tired of the growth. Columbia is a military town, a college town, a government hub. It's full of transplants. People are generally friendly, helpful, and proud of where they live. I think they're just afraid of losing that feeling and turning into a big city that loses its charm. That's why the online tone doesn't always reflect the actual vibe on the ground. And here's the truth they may not want to hear. The growth rate in the 90s was about 7.6%, where in recent years, it's only been about 5.7%. So it really isn't growing faster than before. It's just spreading out more and encroaching into areas that people thought would stay rural forever. Myth 4, there's nothing to do here. This one always cracks me up. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not Atlanta, Charlotte, or any of those big cities in Florida. But that's the point. The truth, Columbia has a full calendar of events, festivals, concerts, local markets, sporting events, and outdoor activities. I've always said, this city isn't in your face. You show up downtown on a random Thursday and didn't even realize there was a festival overtaking the streets. That's why it can be a little tricky at first and feel boring. It moves slower. It doesn't chase you with these large-scale events or endless noise. It's small-town festivals and events. And really, you just have to know where to look and be willing to show up to them. The city doesn't spoon-feed entertainment like a tourist trap and invites you to engage with the local rhythm and vibes. What you should know instead. Talk to real people who've made the move, not just the anonymous commenters. Explore multiple areas before making a decision, not just the ones trending online. Again, don't get giddy because a house hit your inbox that looks like a Pinterest board when you haven't even explored the areas. You gotta learn to love the areas before you fall in love with the homes. I can't tell you how many buyers were eager to make purchases sight unseen because the house looked like the dream online and checked every box they told me. But I told them, let's wait a week till you show up. And they did and went, oh, this isn't what I thought it was, because they were missing the bigger picture. And when in doubt, look past the noise and focus on the feel of the neighborhood, not just the stats. And lastly, don't be afraid to talk to the neighbors that actually live there. Not the guy that lives on the other side of town and hasn't been to that block in over 15 years but continues to say, don't buy there, it sucks. This city is more nuanced than a post with 30 angry commenters or 20 realtor sales pitches. That's why I make these videos, ignoring the trends of either feeding into the negativity to rack up the views or painting it all rainbows and butterflies. My goal is to give you a clear-eyed, honest, on-the-ground look that most content simply doesn't. But let's roll into some rapid-fire pros and cons and then bring this thing back home. Pros. Affordable compared to other markets. Even with rising prices, Columbia is still a steal compared to major metros, especially for those coming from Florida, out west, or the Northeast. City meets nature. You're never far from water, woods, or walking trails. Lake Murray, the Congaree River, and dozens of parks give the city real breathing room. Big town amenities, small town feel. From USC sports, minor league baseball, to major medical centers and concert venues, you got the perks of a larger city with less of the chaos. Genuine people, unpolished charm. You won't always find the flashiest scene, but Columbia's got heart. From local shops to dive bars, it feels lived in, not manufactured. Central location for travel. A few hours from the beach, the mountains, and other southern cities. Columbia is a great home base if you like to road trip or have family nearby. The cons. Older infrastructure in some areas. You'll notice in the roads, schools, and some public buildings. Some areas haven't been updated in decades. Lack of public transportation. If you don't have a car, it's tough outside of the core of downtown. Rideshare options exist, but most folk drive everywhere. Weather can be a lot. Hot, humid summers with the occasional surprise thunderstorm. And yes, we get pollen tsunamis in the spring. Limited walkability in most areas. Unless you're in certain pockets, like the Vista, Divine Street, or parts of Forest Acres, or the brand new Sandpiper Square coming to Lexington, walking to a coffee shop or grocery store usually is an option. Sorry. The online reputation doesn't help. Reddit threads and Facebook groups don't always paint the full picture. Some people pass on Columbia based on hearsay, without ever visiting, or just by driving through one area they thought was going to be it based on what they read, and then just moving on. Now, with that said, there are things that don't always show up in the brochures, the Facebook groups, or even your first trip down here, but they matter. These are the curveballs that make or break the move after you've unpacked the boxes. So before we close out, let's talk about what really surprises people about life in Columbia and how to stay one step ahead. The heat hits different. Yes, you've heard it's hot, but that first July where it's 97 degrees and feels like 110 with the humidity, that's when it hits. You walk out your door and you feel like you hit a wall and your glasses fog up. It's not unlivable, but it'll humble you, especially if you're moving from a drier climate. Some people learn to love it, others can't stand it. The neighborhoods next door might not match the vibe. You might fall in love with the street or a community, but walk 2 blocks over and it can feel a completely different world. Columbia's development isn't uniform, so micro vibes matter. This is why on-the-ground tours are just as critical, if not more important, than that home tour. 10 minutes away is a lie. Everyone says everything is just 10 to 15 minutes away, but traffic patterns, school zones, train crossing, coves around the lake, and construction zones will make some areas feel way more disconnected than they look on a map. Flood zone and surprise insurance costs. Some older neighborhoods sit in floodplains or require special policies. Always check the FEMA flood maps, not the real estate website ratings, even if it doesn't look like a risk. Car taxes. South Carolina's vehicle property tax can be a shock if you're coming from a state without it. It's an annual tax, yes, annual, based on your car value. So budget accordingly. It's part of the cost of living here that often gets overlooked and brings in phone calls after closing when they can't register a car because they haven't paid their taxes. What? Online opinions are loud and not always accurate. Facebook groups are flooded with opinions, some helpful, others downright toxic. What worked for one person may be completely wrong for you. Life is all about perspective. The truth usually lies in between the noise. People move here for one reason, but stay for another. Many come chasing affordability or the weather, but the ones who stay long-term, they fall in love with the community, the pace, and the quality of life. It's not flashy, but it's got staying power. I've always said, that was me. I didn't think this was a long-term destination at first. We were chasing affordability, and I had these grandiose dreams to make it big and move on up. But between all these things that make this city up, it's where we've planted roots. No, it may not shine on paper like Nashville, Charleston, or Tampa when you try to show the folks back home, but here, it just feels like home. So if this video gave you clarity or helped you see Columbia in a new way, go ahead and hit subscribe. There's more on the way. We're talking neighborhood tours, market updates, and insider tips that could save you time, money, and stress on your next move. Now let's talk next steps. You're not looking for a house. You're chasing a feeling, a lifestyle, a way to live that actually fits how you want to spend your days. And that takes more than listings and maps. My team and I help families, retirees, military buyers, and local sellers walk this road every week. We know the questions to ask, the red flags to look for, and how to help you move forward with clarity and confidence. We even got guides, so when you visit, you're not just driving around aimlessly in circles feeling lost. So if Columbia's on your radar and you're ready for a guide you can trust, reach out. Call, text, email, it's all down below. We'd be honored to help you make this next move feel less like a leap and more like a landing. Now, if you're still exploring, you're gonna wanna check out this playlist right here. I mean, it's gonna be packed with real talk, more local insights, and the kind of stuff no one else is really telling you. Otherwise, we will see you on the next episode.